Ah, hello. I'm Phil Smith, and today I just want to talk about Doctor Who for a bit. So, if if you been living under a rock, Jodie Whittaker's era is finally ending. Davies is returning at the helm of the show once more, which is exciting and fun in its own way. And I hope it all goes well. I really am hoping everything is going well. But there's a lot that I want to talk about. So the reason we are where we are, a lot of people will point this out, is because of the whole situation with season 12's clusterfuck finale fucking with the entire continuity and lore of Doctor Who. Basically giving the middle finger to all of the last 50 some odd years this show's been around. And the entire fan base saying, no, we ain't having that. And, well, that's why Jodie and company are leaving. However, there's a lot more that's caused this situation than just the whole woke shit. Like, don't get me wrong, woke shit is part of the responsibility of what's happening, as well as Chibs being one of the worst showrunners. Yes, that is a part of it. I am not denying that. But there's more to this problem and how we got here than just that. Basically, Doctor Who has been on a steady decline ever since Davies left originally, because once Moff took over, the show went to shit. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it went to shit, and it started with Moff for a couple reasons. The first reason is the fact that Moff is incapable of running an entire season of the show. If you don't believe me, actually pay attention. Okay, Moff was incapable of taking over and doing season 5 back in 2009. So much so now he basically told Beebe and Davies at the last minute that he needed more time. He needed Davies to stall for Moff to finish his fucking season, which led to the final specials. Yes, the final specials were Moff's fault. Oh, you can't be sure of that, really? The next season was split in half, and the season after that was split in half. And then, when the fan base was sick and tired of these terrible, awful split in half seasons, the Beebe told Moffat to ensure that to restore the fans trust in Moff, that he should do full seasons. He agreed, but he cut the amount of episodes from 14 to 12 and made sure 2 out of the 12 episodes were Christmas specials spread out throughout opposite ends of the season, leaving just a total of 10 episodes a season, and he could barely handle that for 2 fucking years before having a year-long hiatus, finally finishing his last season with season 10. And you want to tell me that didn't start with Moff? Oh, and it's not just this that Moff started. Moff started all the woke crap as well, but on top of all the woke crap that he started, especially with like Missy, which led to the current situation with Jodie's doctor specifically, there's the other issue that Moff also caused. Fucking the continuity over and over and over and over again without any backlash by the so-called fans. Now let me explain. I'll use the Sontarans as a good example, okay? The Sontarans are a clone army. Their whole job is to go to war. They love war. They go to war. They fight. That is their thing. That is what they do. That's what they do. That's all that they do. It's one of the easiest creatures to simply describe. And does Moff adapt any of this with any of the Sontaran characters that he wrote under? No. He wrote a Sontaran that was a fucking nurse, which makes no sense and doesn't fit in continuity at all. You know why? I'll tell you why. I will tell you why. They're clones. They don't need nurses. They don't need to take care of their wounded. They don't care about their wounded. Once they know a Sontaran's weak, they kill him. The Sontarans are the equivalent in Doctor Who to alien Spartans, essentially. That's what they are. They are war. That is all they are. Anyone that's considered weak is not good enough to be a soldier. That's their whole fucking mindset. Even fucking Davies' era understood this. But what did Moff do? Make a fucking wimpy ass nurse that's like a butler servant? Like, and this leads to the biggest problem for why season 12's finale situation happened in the first place. Because the fucking fan base constantly accepted constant screw ups with the continuity that is completely inconsistent to every other era. Now, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, but Doctor Who is like one of the most flexible when it comes to continuity. Sure. And yes, there are times when, they went off the rails in terms of continuity because it's one of the, it's one of the most anthological like series, so it's not like a consistent continuity. I get that. However, there's a basic sort of lore, if you will, that the series follows with certain characters and creatures set a certain way. And if you're going to do something against that, it has to be set up in a way that's at least decently explained, or at least attempted to. And almost every era before Moff's era understood this overall. One of the only eras that kind of really screwed up on this in the past was probably like Colin's run. Nothing against Colin Baker as actor / doctor. He was a great actor and doctor. He is a great actor doctor. It's just, anyways, the point is, overall, keyword overall, there was a general consistency of understanding who these characters were, and if there was changes to say characters, that they were generally well set up and explained. I'll use a good example: the Ice Warriors. The Ice Warriors' entire characteristics change from their warrior-like species with Pertwee's stories on Peladon, but there's an actual setup to this, because what they did was set up that these are Ice Warriors years and years later on, and that they developed into a more sophisticated species. But even though this is a more sophisticated species, there's still a bit of that Ice Warrior sort of warrior mindset that some subsets of Ice Warriors have, which we see in like the Monster Peladon. So it's a perfect balance of keeping the aspects that were already set up with the Ice Warriors from Troughton's run while doing something different. This is what I mean, okay? Even Davies' era, again, at least understood this. Like, the different Cybermen that are in Davies' era is at least explained reasonably, in the sense that they're from an alternate universe, thus it would have a different sort of design and slight different characteristics, but the general concepts and personalities of Cybermen are kind of still intact. In fact, the issues with Cybermen stories has less to do with the Cybermen's use, other than the subplots that kept getting in the way of the Cybermen. Anyways, that's a whole story for another time. But what I'm trying to get at is almost every other previously, that's what I was trying to say, is generally, keyword generally here, consistent. Moff fucked canon over and over and over and over and over again. The fan base just accepted it for no fucking reason, and this acceptance made the entire creative team keep pushing, changing the continuity and lore of the series over and over and over again in the first place. The precursor to season 12's clusterfuck finale is with the War Doctor. Yes, the War Doctor. If you fuckers accepted the War Doctor, you caused season 12's finale. You heard me. You caused it. You allowed the constant change in the continuity against what was previously set up that led to that clusterfuck disaster in the first place. In the past, when Doctor Who tried to change continuity in ways that really pushed limits of what they should do, like the Eighth Doctor saying that, he is half human, that shit was pushed aside by pretty much the entire fan base, and nobody talked about it ever again. This still was very consistent overall, keyword overall again, with Davies there, which generally, when it came to bringing back some classic character Munster, was mostly, keyword mostly, consistent. One of the only times they screwed that up was basically Sarah Jane, but only in really School Union. After that, they made up for the mistake they made with School Union with the Sarah Jane Adventures, where a character was brought back in basically the best live-action spin-off series in lore. So, yeah, I'm not, like, there's a lot of criticisms of Davies' era on a whole nother level that I could get into, but that's a story for another day. But overall, every era that came before Moff's era, mainly was consistent. After Moff's era, it became less and less consistent. Changes happened on a fucking whim. The continuity and lore, especially what was established beforehand, was completely ignored, and changes just happened without any setup or explanation as to why it happened. The worst thing we had to worry about when some classic monsters or characters were brought back in most of Davies' run was either that there were like generally overuse of Daleks and the undevelopment of the what was it, the crab aliens in that one story, Gridlock, the Macra, I think it was, the Macra. That was the worst we got in terms of the continuity of classic monster, because almost every other classic monster that was brought back, even if they were in a conventional alien invasion plot, at least their characters, their abilities and powers was fairly consistent. Like when the Autons returned, when the Sontarans returned, when the Daleks returned, when the Cybermen returned, you get the picture. When the Master even returned, yes, even the Master during Davies' run. I know a lot of people flat on Davies' Master, but most of that is because of the clusterfuck end of time, not so much the season 3 finale. Yes, the resolution of season 3's finale still sucks, but if people just watch The Sound of Drums on its own, it's a damn good episode, and it's a really great interpretation of the Master that does something new and fresh for the character. It's a shame about the resolution, of course, but that's a story for another day. The point is, before Moff, consistency with continuity overall. There were still problems. I'm not saying there weren't any problems or nothing to criticize. Of course there was. But once Moff took over, continuity fucking fucked itself in the ass. And there was just a complete ignorance and neglect to anything that came before, not just in terms of like Davies' tenure, but in terms of the classic series as well. Which, again, for the most part, was not a problem during Davies' run. The most fucked up episodes in terms of continuity during Davies' tenure was like 3 episodes. School Reunion and The End of Time. And although The End of Time is a clusterfuck, it's a clusterfuck caused by circumstance due to the specials, which happened because of Moff in the first place. So yeah, if we want to avoid the season 12 shit, we need to at least, be consistent overall. If you're going to change a character or story beats or something, it needs to fit in a way that's acceptable to the fan base. I'll use a good example. The Time War. Before Davies' era, the Time War didn't happen, so Davies just kind of came up with the whole concept of Time War and how the Time War was used for the, Time Lords and so forth. And the thing is, it worked. There was actually a lot of kind of incidental setup to the Time War before the Time War, due to the Daleks having time travel machines, like in The Chase and in the what was it? The Chase and the Daleks Master Plan. That was the other one. So the Chase, Daleks Master Plan, they literally had time travel machines chasing after the Doctor. One of Pertwee's Dalek stories was the Daleks building time machines. So yeah, I think there was some sort of paradox or something like that. I haven't seen it in a while, but yeah, I remember that one. And then of course there was also the fact that the Daleks were chasing after Gallifreyan weapons, like in what was it? Remembrance of the Daleks. So even though there wasn't a direct Time War, there was actually already unintentionally a lot of setup for Time War, that the Time War actually just made sense and felt like it was always part of the series, even though there was no setup for it per se. Also, it was a great metaphor for, the old show dying out in the first place. So yeah, I'm sorry I went on a tangent there, but that's a good example of changing the continuity, but in a way that's actually kind of unintentionally set up beforehand, and actually is also good in terms of at least story idea concepts, which unfortunately has not been the case in many of these changes in recent years, because they've either been woke or just because the writers are too fucking lazy to give a damn to put any effort in the work that they write. Anyways, I hope that with Davies' return, things might get better. I don't know if they will or not. We'll wait and see. Yeah. yeah, I'll see you later. Have a good day. Goodbye. 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 Goodbye.